SVC Media.
Welcome to the iGaming Daily Podcast, analysing the news from the betting and gaming industry all over the globe, supported by Optimove, the #1 CRM marketing solution for the iGaming market.
This weekend saw the conclusion of 3 different tournaments on 3 different continents. In North America, the NFL season came to an end with the Super Bowl, and ocean away, AFCON gripped African audiences, and in the Middle East, the Asian Cup final saw Qatar claim the trophy. With the betting industry's global extent being the largest it's ever been, the commercial, media and marketing potential of these tournaments is at an all-time high. I'm James Ross, and on today's episode of iGaming Daily, I'm speaking to Callum Williams and Kieran O'Connor from the Insider Sports team, not the Insider Sports team. How are you both doing today? It's Valentine's. Is love in the air today?
It is, James, yeah. I'm taking the missus up for something to eat in town in Manchester later. So
Charmer.
I know. I try to do my best out there, so.
Did you get like nice flowers, card?
I did the full thing, mate, yeah.
Yeah.
Wine, chocolate.
I actually forgot it was Valentine's Day the other day. I had to, the woman at the reception reminded me. So I had to get a Moonpig card ordered. Instantly and pay for next day delivery. Well, Kieran, love in the air?
It is, but I'm not as nice as Callum, so I'm not actually got her anything.
So love is not in the air.
It's also my mum's birthday, so that's my excuse. You know what I mean?
Did you get your mum anything for her birthday?
I gave my sister some money so she could go and get her something. So that's
you
sorted.
You didn't get it yourself?
I didn't individually get myself. No, that's what sisters are for.
It is his money, to be fair, though.
It is my money, yeah. So
that's the part that counts. No, love is in the air. You know who I love? I love our sponsor, Optimove.
It's great.
That's a good little segue, isn't it?
It's a great segue.
No, yeah, Optimove, the #1 CRM marketing solution for the iGaming market. Just mentioned they are a sponsor, and as a special offer, Optimove is offering new clients a free first month when they buy Optimove. And for more information and to claim the free month, listeners, go to optimove.com/SBC. Links will be left in the podcast description below. Optimove, we love you today. But you're not getting any cards or flowers off Kieran. Sorry.
No,
or you might get your sister to go buy you something.
There you go, might do.
Perfect. We're going to talk about the 3 sporting events that have happened over the past week. We're going to start with the Super Bowl in the first half, and then in the second half we'll touch on AFCON and the Asian Cup. But Callum, Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm. The Chiefs beat the 49ers 25-22 in overtime.
Yeah, I didn't watch the game. I'm not a huge... Well, I like Minnesota Vikings, but I wouldn't say I'm an avid watcher of these. Good final?
I only watched the first 2 quarters because it got to about 1 or half 1 UK time. So that's when it apparently started to get better. So
yeah, I wasn't a big fan of the whole Taylor Swift phenomenon that went around it with who's the player that she's dating?
Travis Kelce's the player she's dating.
Yeah, I mean, actually, his kind of reaction to his coach during the game was
all
over the social media pages, and also when he was at the White House as well. I don't know if you saw that with Biden.
No, I don't think I saw that.
Oh yeah, I think Biden had a top that Mahomes and Kelce presented to him, and then when they were walking back to the team, Kelce just ended up going to the mic and was like, just started being an idiot, and then Mahomes had to push him away. But no, yeah, but just on the Super Bowl itself, like, what does the advertising around this year's kind of Super Bowl tell us about the US betting market's kind of current standing, particularly around sponsorship?
Well, it was kind of this perfect, like, stars aligned type of thing this year's Super Bowl. Not to mention that it was held in Las Vegas as well. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, the stars just kind of aligned for betting operators in the US, and kind of this, like, almost like a celebratory moment for the US betting market at this time, because, yeah, I think sponsorship regarding the betting operators over there, they've severely ramped it up for the Super Bowl. But, you know, why wouldn't you? Because the viewership figures for the Super Bowl this year was 123.4 million, which is the largest, the biggest US TV program of all time. I think since they started recording figures, I think many people said it's the largest since the 1969 moon landing.
Oh, wow, okay.
So, yeah, it was a major event.
There was some obscure fact there.
Yeah, but no, if you look at some of the ads that took place at the Super Bowl, which is obviously a yearly discussion for some of the more casual people watching, BetMGM launched a campaign with Tom Brady, Vince Vaughn, and Wayne Gretzky surrounding their whole offering and what they deliver or what they have been delivering over the past year. DraftKings got Kevin Hart on board, kind of just celebrating their instant payouts offering. And
was that via BetMGM with Kevin Hart?
No, that was DraftKings, I believe. Yeah, okay. DraftKings, and yeah, it just like I said, it was just this moment, this coming together moment for the betting landscape over there, because with it being Vegas as well, you can just imagine the amount of people flying in to go to land-based casinos and placing bets on the Super Bowl, and then going down the road and going to the stadium to watch it in person. So yeah, I think all in all, this was one of the biggest Super Bowls I can remember anyway. Yeah,
I remember talking to Jessica Wellman about this pre-Super Bowl. One of the future podcasts we're going to do fairly recently when Jess is back from a cruise is just to look at the impact of what the Super Bowl had in Vegas with it being held there, because obviously they held the F1 Vegas event recently, and it's kind of I won't say it's chalk and cheese, because the F1 kind of cut off a lot of the strip for the race.
Yeah, it did.
But also you had a lot of more of a global audience coming to Vegas and not really kind of using the retail space, the casinos, the land-based sectors, as much as, say, they would now, because it's an American audience and they know they're big gamblers and big retail gamblers. So they would have embraced Vegas in that way. But Kieran, just for this year's Super Bowl, we just mentioned it, it's been huge for a number of reasons. And just how big was the event in terms of media and betting, and how was it? And was it a kind of a win for bookmakers?
In terms of media and betting, just the event, like Carl said, it was massive. You had so many celebrities turning up and featuring on everyone was trying to get there. It's not like a sporting event in the terms that we sort of know over here in the UK. It's sort of a red carpet event. Celebrities just trying to get airtime. Most of them appeared in the advertisements that are on. It's pretty massive. I know you mentioned Taylor Swift. That sort of whole effect of the Taylor Swift effect, people are saying, that made it huge. You had people tuning in just to see her. You had people tuning in just to see Usher in the halftime show. It really doesn't, not everyone who's tuning in is for the sports. And that's a big benefit in terms of sponsorships and brands, because they're getting a lot of eyes that they might not do in other sporting events. But I'm actually going to say, it might be controversial, in terms of bookmakers, I don't think it's necessarily the biggest benefit or advantage, pretty much because not everyone who's tuning in, and you've got these record viewers, are tuning in to bet on the sport. You've got people just tuning in for the music, just to see what celebrities are there and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it is a win for bookmakers. It's a win for bookmakers this year because obviously the US market has sort of lifted off and everyone's betting. The US market's growing at a crazy rate. So you've had so many people putting bets on that usually wouldn't do. But in terms of the numbers and the viewers, I don't know the percentage of viewers are actually putting bets on the game, or if they're there just to sort of tune into the content.
Yeah, in comparison to previous years, I'm pretty sure, I think there was 3 or 4 this year with bookmakers in terms of advertisement space and stuff, when usually it was 1 or 2 maybe. I think one of the things, again, we'll need to kind of look into this for a future podcast, is with it being held in Las Vegas, how many of these sports fans put bets on before the actual before the actual event itself, and how does that compare to previous years? Yeah. Because it was held in Las Vegas, so it's on the doorstep.
And how many bets were put on in land-based casinos as opposed to other land-based casinos, which, is not incomparable, isn't it? If you had a Super Bowl in, let's say, Philadelphia, there isn't nowhere near as many casinos as there are in Vegas. So
no, yeah. It's the betting. You probably say it's the betting capital of the world. In terms of land-based sector. But I've already kind of mentioned in comparison to the F1 when it was held in Vegas, that had kind of a global appeal because it's the F1 Super Bowl. Talk to anyone who is an American, like the Super Bowl is kind of just American orientated in terms of audience. You've still got people outside of America who kind of love it, but not to a grand scale when you say like the World Cup, which has like over 1 billion views. But just how much reach does the Super Bowl have to like as a global event? And are international bookmakers doing the most to capitalise on this, or do you think they could do more?
Well, it's funny you should say that, because the NFL of recent times have really pushed hard in this internationalisation push. They're hosting games in not just, you know, the UK and Mexico that they historically have, but they're now doing some in Germany. I know they've announced some for Brazil and Spain as well. So I think once those games come over to, let's say, the Brazil market, which, as we know, has just recently passed a bill to introduce online gambling, you could then maybe localised betting operators could then look at the NFL game in I believe it's Sao Paulo. Once that comes to town, you may then start to see localised betting operators who traditionally don't offer NFL or American football betting props or betting options. That might start to become a thing. As the same as well for the Spanish market. So there is some incentives for bookmakers around the world when it comes to the NFL's internationalisation push, because they're really, really pushing it now. Because I think what they've seen the NBA do, the NBA is a lot more of a global sport. Some of their best players now, the NBA, you've got the likes of Luka Doncic and Giannis Antetokounmpo and Nikola Jokic. They are some of the very best players, and they're not even from America, which is saying something. Whereas you go across to, let's say, over here, or even any other European or African or Asian country, you don't really see that many people watching NFL, let alone, you know, playing the sport as well, because the facilities aren't even there as well. So, yeah, the NFL have really honed in and zoned in on this internationalisation push, which in turn could start to see, you know, localised betting operators come to the forefront with those type of offerings. Yeah,
I didn't really know about the kind of NFL branching off into Brazil.
Yeah.
That's an interesting one. If they can replicate what they do in terms of their football or soccer for the US listeners out there, if they can replicate what they do in that field, because the sponsorship in Brazil when it comes to football is insane.
Yeah,
like it's all over, and they do a really good job with it. If they can replicate that with the NFL, then it just takes it up to another level. But Kieran, we'll round off this first half. You know, Super Bowl, always a huge commercial affair. What could other sports kind of learn from the Super Bowl? If anything, actually, could they learn anything to kind of?
I think it depends on the sport and sort of what they want to get out of it. I mean, I spoke to Queenie Porter, who's the vice president of the West Ham ladies team, the other week, and she sort of did bring it up on her own account about the US sports in general, not necessarily on NFL, but US in general, because they do such a good job in commercialising it. You know, she kept bringing up that sport over there compared to here, it's all about the experience. It's not just about the game. There's not as much loyalty in the game as there is here. And sort of the benefits of that is, like you could see at the Super Bowl the other night, the range of advertisements and sponsorship deals that was it wasn't just all geared towards a certain demographic. They realised that they're going to get eyes from everywhere. That opened up the door for, you had automotive sponsorships, Snap brand sponsorships, you name it, they had everything. So sports can learn from this if they want to grow and sort of replicate the amount of money that the NFL make and sort of the eyes they get on it. The sort of argument against it, which you know, from a commercial point of view, if you're trying to make money, do it. From a fan point of view, I think we were talking before, the thing is with the NFL is it's not really, or American sports in general, they're not necessarily pushed towards a working class like you might see men's football is. But it is obviously growing. I think men's football, you could say it's going further towards the NFL. So there's issues with that. Do you really want to replicate it and sort of ruin the experience for the working class? Do you want tickets to be 10,000, 8,000 a ticket for people? I don't know if that's what you want, but it will make more money. And maybe that's something we'll see more with like the European Super League if that ever gets brought out. Maybe that could be something we see. Maybe sports will just turn into copies of the NFL.
Yeah. I mean, I was listening to Simon Jordan, who was ex-Crystal Palace owner, and he was now a presenter on TalkSport. I can't remember who he was talking to, but it was someone related to the NFL.
He had a debate with an NFL writer, was it?
Yeah.
I think I've seen the same thing.
Yeah, and he was saying, like, how do you measure success? Do you measure it by the viewing figures?
Yeah.
Whereas the NFL writer was measuring that on revenue and commercial revenue, whereas Simon Jordan was talking about viewership in terms of the Premier League viewership compared to, Super Bowl viewership.
There you go.
It's an interesting one, and it would be interesting to see how they kind of replicate this. You're probably right, the European Super League is probably the closest example of where we're going to get this kind of replication.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the thing is with the women's game in football, like, they're at such a point now where they're trying to, it'd be a great point for commercial and brands to sort of invest in it because it's so cheap and it's growing. It just depends on what women's football want to do. Do they want to follow the footprint of men's football, create loyalty in clubs, or do they want to just grow it as hard as they can? And
Well, even the women's World Cup football, I mean, their viewing figures were higher than the Super Bowls. Yeah. Like they get about 1.5 billion, like over the whole course of the tournament. So, is the Women's World Cup a bigger success than the Super Bowl? It's subjective. It depends what viewpoint you come from, and it's a great conversation for another podcast, I think, moving forward. We're just going to round off the first. Well, we've rounded off the first half. We're going to go to a quick ad break, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about football, or again soccer for US listeners, and we're going to talk about AFCON and the Asia Cup.
Brazil, a global economic powerhouse, deeply passionate about sports, and now home to one of the hottest markets in gaming. And we're giving it the full SBC treatment. Join industry leaders, market experts, and all the major players in the country for 3 days of content, exhibition, and epic networking at the first ever SBC Summit Rio.
Okay, welcome back. Yep, we're going to talk AFCON and the Asia Cup, and this weekend saw the conclusion of AFCON and the Asia Cup, obviously, at the same time. AFCON, the Ivory Coast, beat Nigeria in the final. And considering they sacked the manager after like 3 games into the tournament and somehow managed to win, is it unheard of?
It was crazy. Yeah, it was crazy.
It was baffling. And Qatar won the Asian World Cup. They were hosting it, I believe, as well.
Yeah, they did host it. Yeah, Qatar
they retained the trophy from when they previously won it. So congratulations to them. And just, Kieran, I'll come to you. We're all football fans, but you're a United fan, so I'll come to you first. You're my preference. How widely recognised are kind of the commercial opportunities of these tournaments? We talked about AFCON just as it kicked off. They signed a great big deal with Orange.
They did.
And that I totally forgot Orange was even a mobile network, but their reach in Africa is insane.
Yeah,
like just how big of an opportunity is this for the commercially?
I think commercially it is massive, and I mean we talked to Dean Akinyobi in an article before the AFCON, sort of leading up to it, and he just kept saying the same thing: untapped potential. He kept repeating it all the time. So I think it is huge for brands and commercial. Like the commercial potential of it is huge, and I think this AFCON, maybe it got realised a bit more than in previous times. You saw big pushes from sort of all these different brands and bookmakers as well. So I think this year was massive compared to recent years, but I still think with the amount of viewers that it gets in, I mean, they said that there was over 2 billion people who watched the tournament across its whole duration. For that many viewers, surely there's people they need to push even harder. You know what I mean?
Well, you had the powerhouse of Sky behind it this year as well, which is just for the broadcasting rights is insane. Just to take it to another level. But then even
AFCON bigger than Super Bowl.
AFCON's bigger than Super Bowl. Sorry, America. Sorry, Taylor Swift. But like even having Sky, you then have the links to the betting companies with Sky Bet, and they all start doing promotions on their apps, on their platforms, because they have the rights to these tournaments, and that just creates more exposure. And I won't go too much into the quality of the football that was on show there, but I mean, Dean was right. It's such an untapped market, and I think it's one that is going to continue to grow and grow and grow. And Callum, get your views on kind of AFCON.
Yeah, in terms of what Kieran said there, in terms of like, Orange, like you said, we might have forgotten that Orange even existed, but to a large portion of the African continent, it's still a major network for them. So those localized brands or those localized companies that are still prominent in those regions is extremely vital for the growth and the commercial growth of AFCON. And many of the African countries who would go down different sponsorship routes. I think us as European football fans, I think we're kind of spoilt in a way because of the Premier League, the success of the Premier League and other high profile leagues. But for the African football fan, they don't really have that big of a league in certain countries. So when AFCON rolls around, they really, really get behind it. They're really invested. You see a lot of former Premier League stars like Mo Salah and Sadio Mane, when they arrive in Egypt and Senegal, it's major in a major way. So in terms of and then what they bring as well, Salah and your Manes, they bring in other sponsorship opportunities as well just off the back of them. So in terms of moving forward, if Sky continue to broadcast it, I think it will continue to be. It will continue to get large viewership figures, and so I think they will focus a lot more AFCON on a lot more localized and regional partnerships and sponsorships. Yeah,
and I kind of want to put a bit of attention to the Asian Cup because I didn't really watch this one. There was too much going on, but I didn't really watch this tournament thoroughly. We've not covered it the best as we could do, but the fact it's held in Qatar. And this is the second probably big tournament that Qatar had hosted alongside the World Cup. How have betting operators utilised kind of that tournament and market? And because can you bet in Qatar? Is it illegal to do that?
I think that is the major obstacle for betting operators in those predominantly Muslim countries. Is that it is not allowed? It's illegal. Yeah.
Prohibited.
Is it frowned upon? Would you say?
Yeah. Well, we also had an iGaming Daily conversation a few weeks back about Abu Dhabi emerging as potential gambling safe spot, where we don't know particularly the compliance or the regulatory rules around that right now, but we do know that Wynn are looking to open up a casino in Abu Dhabi. So I think, as well as Saudi Arabia relaxing a lot of laws to attract Western companies and attract Western people to set up shop in Saudi or even just visit Saudi, because they are really trying to make Saudi Arabia like a land spot and a sporting home for many, many different sports, including football. So I think what Qatar would have done for the Asian Cup this year is just follow on from the success of the World Cup, because I think we all agree that the last World Cup was pretty good, right? So they will just be looking to continue to market and brand Qatar as a sporting home akin to Saudi Arabia.
Yeah. So I believe I'm literally doing a quick Google search here, and I'm gonna cite where I'm getting this information just in case it is incorrect. Ligamart.com. They're saying that gambling in Qatar is illegal in both online and offline modes. But again, we're seeing more and more voices probably coming out from like Saudi-backed or UAE-backed countries that are opening up to gambling, and I think that'll be an interesting market and tournament to watch in the near future, just to see because definitely Saudi-based companies they're now branching more into every aspect of sport, certainly within the UK. So it's if they then now start to tailor their betting offers to others around the world. It's an interesting one. We won't delve into it too much now because I think we need to do more research into this and have a really more in-depth conversation about this. But just kind of zoning back onto AFCON, zoning back into the tournaments in general, actually, with many international players competing in these tournaments. What significance do you think these tournaments have for bookmakers trading back in Europe? You had like the likes of Son in the Asia Games. Like you had who was the Napoli striker called now?
Victor Osimhen.
Victor Osimhen playing for Nigeria in the final. Like you have these big name players Onana played 3 games. Oh, he played 1 game. Absolute comedy show that is. But you know, like these big players, like how do the bookmakers start to utilise them back in Europe? And Kieran,
I'll answer this one. I'll try my best anyway. So obviously back in Europe, like you said, you've got these stars. I think they're the main drive why people might watch these tournaments. I know for me, maybe this one I didn't watch too much of the AFCON, but in past years, any African footballer who plays for Manchester United, I do like watching the games and seeing how they're getting on.
Have there been many?
I mean, you know, I'm trying to figure out top of my head now.
Eric Jemba.
Eric Jemba maybe. Eric Bailly.
Yeah, we had Mucho one year, probably.
Yeah.
Bebe was there this year.
And I'll tell you what, he's got a great goal as well. Yeah.
Yeah, he tried it another 3 times. It didn't work.
But yeah, I think for most Premier League fans, they're really going to tune in to watch their players because, you know, what happened with Mo Salah and I think, did Mane get injured as well or was it just Salah?
I think it was just Salah, then Mane just got knocked out.
Yeah. So yeah, you had people like Salah getting injured. You had Mane featuring in the tournament, Osimhen, Onana, Son in the Asian Cup. But sort of for European betting markets, these star players playing in these tournaments are what brings people in. You know, people are going to watch to see people get injured, to see if they score a goal, and also a lot of people the bets are going to feature these star players. I think that's massive for betting operators. You know, with Salah getting injured, they might have actually lost out on a bit of they might have lost out on some bets there. You know, a lot of Liverpool fans are just going to put on every game Salah to score, Salah to get an assist. If he's not playing, they're not going to tune in. They're not really going to bet on it. They don't have anything to bring them back in. So yeah,
no, that's fair. Cool. We're gonna finish off the podcast, and I'm gonna circle this back to love because it's Valentine's again. I'm not going to ask you more about what you're doing tonight because Callum's already doing something. You're doing nothing. It's Kieran. But love football. We've had 3 finals with the NFL, Asian Cup, and AFCON. These create some of the best moments in people's lives. So, quick question to round this off. Callum, we'll go with you. What was the best moment in sport that you've loved?
Well, being a safe fan, I think you know what's going to come.
Yeah, right, Kieran. Back to you. No, it's fine. Don't worry.
It is not the Rodri goal that secured us our treble last season because as much as I do love that goal, nothing will ever beat when I was about 14, when I was in the stadium and I seen Sergio Aguero score that goal to lift us our first Premier League title in about God knows how many years. First year. It's all right, Kieran.
I think I cried that day.
I didn't watch football for like another 6 months.
I cried that day as well.
I'll say that the best moment for me in sport in general.
Yeah, just anything
personally.
Yeah.
I'd also when Michael Owens scored to make it 4-3 at Old Trafford. Okay. I was there that day, and that was probably one of the best goals I've ever seen in my life. I think I ended up about 4 rows in front. But I thought as well, another big sporting story that I think everyone would love and all listeners would love is the Sebastian Haller one.
Yeah.
Him coming back from, you know, being diagnosed with cancer and sort of scoring getting the glory.
Yeah. Absolutely credit.
It's great news.
Yeah, no, it was a great one. And I was going to rip into your first one. Now you just brought the Haller story, so I can't do it anymore. No, I can. One of your best moments is an ex-Liverpool player scoring over for United.
I think that's the beauty of it, though, isn't it?
Even though that game should have ended about 5 minutes.
Here we go. No, don't worry, Callum. I think my greatest moment it's going to be United related, but where I was at the game when we beat Roma 6-1, which was, I think, the first game I really realised. Well, the first game that we actually thrashed a team and was so dominant that I witnessed. But that was a great moment for me. And then it isn't the first Champions League we won, but I was born, but it was the first one that I can remember watching, and it was the 2008 Champions League final. Moscow, yeah. I was watching it with my dad. Penalty shootout, and I actually had to walk outside for John Terry's kick, because I thought I can't watch this anymore. We had a pub across the road. And then when he obviously slipped a miss, I just screamed and I ran inside and just like jumped on my dad screaming, made off, because I knew he missed the penalty.
That's the thing though, isn't it? You get all these moments
now,
in
man.
football.
Look at that, I'm getting goosebumps.
You get these moments in football and stuff.
Yeah. let's round it off now before Callum gets to speak about City again. No, perfect. No, Callum, Kieran, cheers for joining us on today's podcast. It's been a really fun conversation. I've enjoyed it. To the listeners out there, tune in tomorrow for more iGaming Daily, and for any of the topics that we've discussed on today's podcast, I'll leave a link in a description below for further stories on Insider Sport. But apart from that, thank you and goodbye.
Thank you for listening to today's iGaming Daily podcast, supported by Optimove, the #1 CRM marketing solution for the iGaming market. If you want to find out more about some of the subjects raised today, feel free to explore any of the sites in the SBC News network, or check out the latest edition of the SBC Leaders magazine. Happy reading.